Cohasset Advisory Committee meeting of Wednesday, March 26th, 7 p.m. It is a virtual meeting via Zoom. And we will now do a roll call, please. Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron here.
Fran Collins,
Yep.
Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy here.
Mary McGoldrick,
Mary McGoldrick here.
Meg Wheeler,
Meg Wheeler, present.
and Gina Stino present. I was just saying that we have people who'll be joining us here and there. There are some kid conflicts. There's I think this is the sports meeting tonight, and there's a Boy Scout thing tonight. So those folks will join us at some point. But the good news is we have a quorum, so we can start, because I was concerned about that. We do not have minutes to approve. We will have 2 sets next week. And we have a few different presentations. So if you're ready.
Okay, I will promote Ellen Marr, who is here for Town Hall,
Great.
as well as Nick Berardi.
Hello.
Excuse me.
Oh, and we have some more people too. Hi, Susan.
The gang's all here.
Hey, Nick.
How are you tonight?
Just great.
Good, how you doing?
Excellent.
Okay, so Lydia and Susan, are you going to participate? Because we don't have sound for you, so you'd have to turn your microphone on.
We will participate as needed.
Okay, good.
We just want to be here as Holland Highland representatives, but kind of backseat, and we'll spoke when spoken to.
Okay, so take it away. Who would like to speak first?
So, Mark, if it's all right, I'm not going to go through the whole thing that I did the other night at CPC. I'll just start and give a pretty brief overview of where we are. We don't need to regurgitate all the projects that have come before the town since 2008, but the select board has come to the conclusion that municipal government will remain on Highland Ave at 41 Highland Ave in the town hall in the annex. And we know that the voters don't want to spend a lot of money on anything fancy or upgraded or modern or whatever. So some months ago, a group of us got together as an ad hoc town hall working group and started thinking about, we spent a lot of time talking about what do we want to do? How do we want to do it? How do we want to get there? And what could be some options for partnership? And we started with what we were calling the cultural center, but they've now become the Holland Highland. In terms of a partner in taking over the historic part of town hall for programming, for different activities, to kind of get town theater, school theater, concerts, dances, things that the community could enjoy back into that building and have it be utilized, as opposed to, standing still with, the dust mites and cobwebs forming as they are. So we started talking about, well, what's that going to take? Because as everyone knows, that portion, the historic portion, does not presently have a fire suppression system, and therefore we cannot occupy it or have any activity in that part of the building. And so with the 135 King Street, the new police station, which will start construction most likely at the beginning of next year, we have 5 staff members in at 135 King Street that we have to rehome, and the goal is to have them rehome back into Town Hall. So we're kind of working on an accelerated plan, and we looked at the ADA list, and we looked at what does the building need for us to provide a safe, secure, and efficient environment, a comfortable environment for our Town Hall employees. And the group has gotten together, Nick, Brian Joyce, John Hallen, Mark Cameron, Paul Grady, myself, Glenn Pratt, Lydia, Susan Franklin, have all been meeting. Meg has been involved on this project, and we've kind of whittled it down to what we need to do to get the building efficient. We started with a roof this year, which got put on. Is that what you say about a roof? A roof gets put on? It's not installed. I don't know.
It was replaced.
It was replaced. Thank you, Nick. And that came in under budget, so that has allowed for some funding. And we want to, well, I said what we want to do with it and with the town hall. And since the historic portion is eligible for CPC, Mark has done a tremendous spreadsheet. I hope it's the one that you guys all have in your packet, showing what is needed for the historic portion, what is needed for the annex, and then what are shared expenses. And based on the regulations, based on square footage, it's a 60-40 split between the historic portion and the annex portion. And CPC Monday night voted to recommend $1.5 million to town meeting, so we can begin to address basically the historic section, which is the fire suppression. And then we're going to do windows in the entire building. And then we undergo HVAC upgrades, which we had money already. And so that design is already being worked on for HVAC. So with those things, the building envelope will get secured, and then we'll start looking at other things. It's not going to be a remodel. It's not going to, the hallways, the staircases, the elevator, the dead spaces that are in town hall are going to stay where they are. We'll try to make better use of them. But other than maybe a wall here and there, making one office that's maybe too big into smaller offices, maybe looking at cubicles, we're not really going to massively reconfigure what the annex looks like at this point in time. Our goal also is to get all front-facing people down to the first floor, so citizens don't have to go up to the second floor. And that's primarily, I think, the treasurer collector. So that's kind of where we are on this. I don't know, Mark, if you have anything you want to add.
Just really that it's it's an efficient use of the dollars here to replace systems that are at end of life, provide some incremental enhancements, bring some things up to code, so that we have a building that is up to code with ADA entrances, interior ADA components. So it's really just getting us to where we need to be, and it's a no frills upgrade. And at this point, nothing's been designed, but it's all budgetary, so that with some good historical data here, and taking a lot of the studies and the pricing that's been done in the past, bids that have come in. So a lot of work has gone into having this number be something that really means something. But like Ellen said, we're not gonna dramatically change the look and size and orientation of the building. It is going to by and large be the same building. There is, as part of this project, for instance, there's no work with the elevator really. So that work was already done. And again, it's just fixing, it's mainly fixing those systems that have expired, with some new systems like the fire protection. So.
And so, Kat, we have presented to capital budget. We had a joint meeting a few weeks ago, and Chris Senior has done a forecast and a projection of the roll off of the current debt. And we would secure debt for this in FY27, because we can and Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, but we can begin the work and borrow from ourselves as a town and then pay ourselves back. And so with the debt accruing in FY '27, it replaces the debt that is rolling off of the capital, and they're very comfortable with this. They wanted to see what would happen with CPC on Monday night. They're meeting next Monday night, I believe, to have their final conversation on this.
Mary?
So if I'm, the spreadsheet's awesome, Mark, thank you. And then we also got just some materials about the debt service calculators, depending on how much we borrowed.
Mhm.
If I'm reading this correctly, at 5.4, 60% of that being for the historic structure coming in around a little over 3.1, you would shave off 1.5 from that, should CPC vote to recommend that and town meeting vote to approve that?
Yeah, so
read
CPC,
Yeah.
yep, so CPC voted to recommend the 1.5 million, so that would come off of the 5.4.
Okay, but the
And, yeah.
town meeting needs to also approve that
Correct.
for that
Yep.
to go through. Okay, so then we're talking about 4 million roughly.
Mhm.
And where has capital budget? I'm sure it depends on what other, I understand the debt roll off, but the other projects that are coming up, what are they comfortable borrowing?
3.5.
Okay. That's it for me.
So like we said, we're very close there in that.
Right.
Fran?
And
I think, this is your budget statement is good and it seems very reasonable to me. My only concern and question is, have we really done a good survey of the structure of the annex we're not gonna be finding a bunch of rotten stuff that has to, under the oh my God section, that's not included here in the budget.
no, I mean, obviously there are always, with any construction project of any size and nature, there's always the unknowns, right? So that's what there's a healthy contingency factor that's built into the budget to handle those unknowns. We did already replace a lot of rot sills and wood relative when we did the painting a couple of years ago, and things weren't necessarily as bad as in some areas. So we did fix some of those issues. We did get a peek into some of those issues. We did already do the roof and get deal with some rot that was up there. There wasn't a tremendous amount. And we're preserving it so that even obviously this isn't going to start tomorrow. So we're still a little ways away from actually the work happening, but we've secured the envelope from the top, and we're working our way down and around.
Well, that's a good start from the top. Of course, that's the best. That's where you have to start. But we do have some known unknowns there. I just want to be sure that that's been considered, and we've got funds in to cover for, what might jump up as we start taking things apart.
And we've worked to identify and have scope included for the what we've done for at least for knowns through the previous projects, and what we've uncovered through surveys and exploratory holes that we created for the previous design teams to create their documents. We've captured that scope and anticipated that scope as part of the project.
Excellent. All right. Yeah, I think that's a good presentation, how you put it together, right? It makes
I mean, just
good sense to me.
And to kind of highlight what's not included here is, we excluded a couple of things, which is the fit out, if you will, the enhancements in the auditorium space that would be part of the Hall on Highlands, their work. So those in the previous plans for town hall, we've seen a couple of versions with bathrooms in the overhang portion of the auditorium. Those would be part of the Hall on Highlands work. Restoration and enhancement of the auditorium space, that'll be on the Hall on Highlands portion. So those items, the restoration and cleanup of the changing rooms on the backside of the stage, anything regarding the stage, the lighting, all of that would be part of the Hall on Highlands work. Our work as the town side would be taking care of the windows, the base system electrical, things of that nature.
Who's
As
gonna
well-
fund the Hall on Highland?
What's that?
Who's funding the Hall on Highland?
It's a nonprofit,
Okay,
a private nonprofit, so.
all right, that's what I thought, but just wanted to be sure.
And then the other item that wasn't included was the parking lot, the repaving and resurfacing and reconstruction of the parking lot.
All right, thanks, Mark.
Yep.
Diane?
Mark pretty much just covered my questions, which was the scope for sort of the historic part. And I noticed in the budget spreadsheet, like the historic doors will be replaced and some of that front area, the bathroom, the stairs, are all that being handled in this particular project? Confirming that.
Yes. Yep.
Great.
Well, the stairs would be part of the Hall on Highland if they need those stairs. And again, there's some fine tuning and adjustments of the space on the second floor, right?
Yeah.
So the majority of the second floor would at least be occupied by town hall. So it's not that the historic building completely is solely for the use of the nonprofit. Town offices would still plan to occupy the majority of the second floor. It's the first floor that they would
Public
know.
space, yeah.
Yeah.
Great job, thank you.
Okay, somehow my hand got put down, so I just have a quick question about the pre-work that has been done. Has a hygienist been hired to go through the building, make sure that there's no mold or any problems like that in the building?
So we originally have the hygienist reports from the earlier projects documenting the asbestos. So that is documented and known, and that is included in the budget. And as far as any mold, there hasn't been any assessments done to see if there's any more mold. I mean, it's anything we've known. We've handled the wood repairs on the exterior and the roof, but I don't know if Michelle has any other information on what's been done in the past couple of months here in terms of mold, but I don't think there's any reports of mold or water infiltration.
Yeah, we haven't done any deep dives on mold in specifics, but that's not as scary and dire as asbestos is. So if we do find stuff like that, it gets remediated properly. And I don't
Okay.
suspect that we're going to find anything over, a scope that's a scary thing.
So when the roof was replaced, was that because of water intrusion or just because the shingles were old?
Yeah, it was
Both.
past its useful life. We had a couple spots with some water intrusion, but honestly, the sheathing replacement that we needed to do was a lot less than I expected. So that's a good thing. We didn't have a lot of water coming in.
And the roofing replacement was also done because in windstorms we would continue to lose shingles off of the building. So
Yeah.
it was then trying to repair the shingles that were blowing off, even if the water hadn't had a chance to infiltrate yet. That you're tying brand new shingles into rubble, and the more you touch it, the more it would fall apart.
Falls
So
apart. No, I get
it
that.
that was the main reason for the replacement, but the roof had continuously been repaired time after time, ongoing. It didn't stop since the last several years. So
It was a yearly occurrence for us.
Well, most of you know what I do for a living, so I am concerned about some of those things. Mary?
Yeah, just a couple quick clarifications. So, Mark, if I understand correctly, and Ellen, this budget and the work that we're going to be funding through CPC and or capital will, in the historic building, will take care of any ADA requirements, fire suppression, and HVAC issues. Is that right?
yes.
Okay, and then the rest of it is sent, I mean, I don't mean to oversimplify, but the rest of it will be handled with the nonprofit. And then I guess a question for Nick, the monies that we allocated and spent last year for the repair of the elevator, do we have a timeline or a sense of its, I know you never know with an elevator, but of its useful life at this juncture?
So when we did that repair, they pretty much said we can get a lot longer out of it. We may need to do certain upgrades here and there, depending on like the code changes. Like just recently, they came out with a code change that no elevator in town met. The state just decided it was to be this way, so $4,000 a piece, we had to do that. And that's just a
Wonderful.
state requirement. So things like that might pop up.
Okay,
The only thing that they kind of recommended was the door mechanisms sometimes, similar to the high school that we are going to be doing. But that particular elevator isn't showing any of those just because of the certain brand and model it is. So arguably speaking, the heavy lift is out of the way with the piston, and it's just a big metal box going up and down. So we've kind of done the hard part on that elevator for now.
okay.
So we should be able to get a lot longer out of it.
So is a lot longer 5 years?
Oh
8?
no, we're like 15.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not an ideal elevator, but the only way to make it an ideal elevator is to make it larger, which obviously is not going to happen unless one of the past projects happen. So we kind of are stuck with the size that we have, and we're gonna make do with that.
Okay.
And
Awesome,
it's still
thank you.
gonna have the multiple stops. I mean, those are the components that we won't be changing. Because our hands are really tied with that. And
Sure,
that's-
you've got the half levels and everything, so.
Yep, and to ultimately to solve that, you basically need a new building, right? You can't, it's a much bigger issue than something simple.
Yeah, alrighty, thank you.
Any more questions?
Did anyone do we want to bring up the sheet with any specific questions on the sheet? I mean, we can bring the sheet up if we want. I don't know what.
I think it's pretty clear. It's not multiple pages, it's 2, and it's very well laid out. Has the budget, has the timeline. Does anybody have any questions on that 2-page piece that we have?
Great
I
job.
don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's very
wonderful
well
job,
done.
Mark.
Thank you very much. So we don't need to take any action on this, right? Tonight?
You don't need to take action on it tonight. It'll be back before you next week,
Mhm.
after capital votes. So you
Okay.
have the full picture of capital and CPC for the total funding amount.
Okay, great. I didn't think so, but just double checking. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mrs. Marr. Thank you, Nick. And thank you, Susan and Lydia.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It was very well done.
I'm gonna stay for the rest of your conversation, if that's okay.
Are you creeping on us?
Yeah.
No, that's fine. I know how much you love watching our meetings.
Yes.
And
Um,
we yours.
Okay, so
We aim to please.
does everybody have the most current version of the warrant, the one that came out this week? Because I did pick up some changes when I was doing my review. The articles numbered on the agenda are different from the articles in the warrant, Michelle. So just
I
to
did
make,
notice that.
just to make note, Article 4 on the agenda should be Article 5. Article 6 on the agenda should be Article 7. Diane?
Jean, there was one sent out today that might be updated. Is that the one you're looking at? Because I have the same Article
Yes.
4 and 4.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I have,
I
So,
just want you to know that there is a difference.
Diane, I'm sorry. So Diane, Article 4 on your agenda says operating budget, but in
oh,
the
on
warrant,
our,
it's Article 5.
on our meeting agenda as opposed to the warrant agenda.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, sorry.
Yeah. So Article 6 should actually be numbered Article 7, supplemental appropriation. Article, I scribbled so I can't see it. I think it's 11, should be number 12. Creation of a recycling transfer facility enterprise fund.
I have that as Article 4.
Really?
Are we looking at something different?
I think we are.
see it as 4 too.
Okay, well, let me just give you the names then. Okay, so Community Preservation Committee should be Article 15. Do you have that one?
Excuse me, so Jean,
Yeah.
you are correct and we are correct. It's listed twice here in the warrant. So Article 12 is the creation of an enterprise fund for the RTF. And Article 4 is also the creation of the enterprise fund for the recycle transfer station. So,
Okay, but let's confuse everyone because Article 4 was operating budget, but now that's our Article 5.
Right.
Okay, good. So then Article 14 is actually Article 15, Community Preservation Committee. And then Article 18 should actually be labeled Article 19, Citizens Petition Expand the Sewer District. Good.
That sounds exciting.
We probably won't talk about that. So we're going to look at the operating budget and Michelle can guide us through that. We do not have information on the schools. We've asked several times, they're not ready. So we're going to go ahead with the town side of the budget and maybe make a recommendation tonight. We are hopeful that that can happen. So if you want to lead that conversation, Michelle, I would appreciate it.
so I'm just gonna ask a question. I'm happy to do that. But where I see Article 4, it's specific to the schools, doesn't matter. We're still gonna go ahead with the town side.
We're going to go, yeah.
Okay,
I think that I think it was meant to encompass both. The way it's labeled, operating budget.
Fine.
Schools.
so I'm gonna pull up,
I was seeing that as two different subjects in the same, but
okay, let's walk through this.
Jean, if I can just interrupt while Michelle's pulling that up, I'm not sure if you saw Chris's email, but he, if possible, he would like us to.
yes,
Yeah.
yep. He and I had a conversation and I saw his email. Yeah, so 4 is enterprise. Okay. And then 5 is operating budget. So what we're going to be voting on or recommending tonight is just the town side budget. And this is what, on the screen is what Chris circulated today.
Right, so, so Chris, circulated 2 budgets today. And one is the detailed budget report. And what he did is he rolled everything up into this simple Excel spreadsheet. Because I don't think everyone wanted to look through the 57 pages. But if you prefer to do that, I'm happy to share that as well.
Okay. If anybody has any questions along the way, though, we've got the information in front of us that we can look it up.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's start with the town moderator, obviously. It's what it is. Department 122 under selectmen. That rolls up everything from equipment, parking tickets, advertising, office supplies, the elected officials, subscriptions, trainings, things of that nature. And that's what the number of 137.3 comes out as. You have your town manager line item that he rolled up. Once again, that is, that is salaries, for the town manager office, as well as travel, meetings, dues and subscriptions, merit increases, and extra hours for temporary employees. And that's what that rolls up to. You have your human resources department. Once again, salaries, training, development, recruitment, and longevity. The next line is school support.
Michelle, how many people in that human resources section?
So in human resources, there's 2 full-time employees. There's the HR director and the assistant to the director.
Seems like an awful lot of money for 2 people, doesn't it?
So there's 2 people, there's contracted services in there, which is some software. There's also training and development and any trainings that come out of the town. So we have reimbursements, educational reimbursements, and that comes out of this line item as well.
Okay.
School support officer is the next line item. And then we have the advisory committee, which you're all aware of. We have that reserve fund, which we're proposing the 278. The next line item is the finance. I don't have that. Oh, here it is. The finance line item, again, that's salaries. You have the annual audit in there. The payroll services, education, dues, memberships, and the employee salaries. The next line item, you have the assessing department, which, hang on, here we go. The assessing department, once again, you have your salaries, you have your assessor, your assistant assessor, and there's an admin in there. You have your elected officials line item. The reval services is in here as well. And that pretty much is what makes up this department. Next, you have your treasurer collector. Here again, you have your salaries for payroll and benefits, the collector, the deputy. You have your dues and memberships. You have contracted services here again, and a number for tax liens. So the next line item is town council. There's no legal settlements in here this year. This is strictly just town council salary. The next is IT. So here we have all the salaries rolled up. There's townwide expenses in here. You know, your storage, all your software, your memberships, the hardware purchases, security services, network services, as well as your CIO, deputy, and other support services.
You get almost $1 million in that if you include the town IT. I don't understand why they're not all in one item, but
Yeah. I think there's some shared expense here when you go with the technology office. So
Okay.
that incorporates a lot of the software, hardware, and infrastructure maintenance in that line item. And the town IT line item specifically, I believe rolls up just to salary. The next one, you have the town clerk. Once again, you have your elected official, you have your registrars in here, travel, meetings, the voting machines, the temporary employees, and equipment repair is also in this line item. Next, you have your permits and inspections. Once again, salaries, you have your town planner in this line item. You have your administrative assistants. You have conservation agent, as well as dues, memberships, and meeting expenses here as well. Go on to other general government. Right here, it's fire protection fee, water purchases, and payments to Hingham Water as well. The next line item is police. As you see here, the police line item has everything from salaries to a large number here for the regional dispatch center. You have overtime built in here. You have the office window hours, which is part-time employees to man the station. You have dues and memberships, things like ammunition, gas, training and equipment, vehicle maintenance, uniform allowances. That's all built in here as well as their educational incentive, sick leave and vacation buyback is all part of this. Similar to fire, same thing. You have your vehicle maintenance, you have your salaries, custodial supplies, fire prevention. You have, your travel in meetings, you have emergency medical, you have your uniform allowances in here. As well as educational incentives, holiday pay, sick pay, and some capital costs in here, as well as training, and education. Next is the building commissioner. Here you have the building inspector, the gas and plumbing inspector, the wire inspector, inspection supplies, subscriptions, mileage, and once again, the department head's salary. Moving along to emergency management, here you have supply expenses, and other expenses as needed. And then the co-op for the cadet program is in there. You have the harbor master line item, once again, similar to police and fire. There's the uniform allowance. There's her building maintenance, electricity, postage, marine supplies, boat maintenance, money for the floats. Seasonal employees are included in this line item, as well as additional hours as needed. We move along to the shellfish constable, it's just a stipended position. Next, we have South Shore VOTEC, it's our payment to the vocational school. And then we have the interface, which is $16,000, and then we get into another larger budget, which is the DPW. In the DPW, you have, once again, items in here such as heating, fuel, electricity, your tree maintenance, field maintenance, vehicle maintenance, culvert maintenance, equipment, money for the tide gate, seawall maintenance, traffic signals, street lights, rubbish removal, cemetery maintenance, safety equipment, OSHA compliance, and contracted services are all included in the DPW line item. The snow and ice removal is mainly made up of overtime and equipment rental, with obviously salt and sand. And then the final line item is street lighting, and that is to maintain all of the town-owned streets. Street lights.
Michelle, before we go to the next page, Mrs. Kennedy had her hand up,
Oh, I'm
so
sorry.
No, can you hear me? Yeah, I'm off mute.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, I can't see myself, so. Anyway, I just wanted to let Fran know when he had a question about some of the line items, that we have the line item report in our today's email, as well as this report we're looking at. Yes. So in other words, you can look at any of these individual departments and see
and see what the costs
there's,
are.
three, in some of them are just salaries and it's a big number, but in
Nope,
the
I
case
have
of
them, I have
Yep.
them in my hands. So.
good,
Okay,
I
Thank
pulled it
you.
up myself.
Okay.
Did I go too far? Okay.
Sorry, I ruined your rhythm, sorry.
That's okay. No, that's okay. So transfer station, as you see in FY 26, due to what you're going to hear later about creating an enterprise fund, the only item in here for a transfer station is a $200,000 number for equipment maintenance. And you'll hear a little bit more about that later when you hear the presentation about the enterprise fund for the RTF. Facilities management. Once again, like all the other departments, you have your uniform allowance. This is made up of painting projects, software licensing, overtime, electricity, heating, elevator maintenance, fire alarm services, cleaning services, and it's broken out by, town hall and all other town buildings, and you can look at that detail. It includes plumbing and electrical for all the buildings. There's a number here to maintain the playgrounds as well. And And it's pretty consistent across all town buildings as to the allocation per building. So that's what that line item rolls up to. Um, Next, we have the Board of Health. Contracted services, medical supplies, the administrator, there's the number in here for, the substance abuse line item, and, the public health nurse is also included in this line item. We move on to elder affairs. Here, very similar to all the others, you have salaries, and you have, you know, gas costs for the vehicles, postage, vehicle maintenance. You have the van driver salary. The new kitchen coordinator is included in here, as well as some longevity pay. Veteran services is pretty straightforward. It's consistent with, last year. Actually, it's consistent every year since 2024. And once again, you have, you know, your veteran services, travels, dues, general relief, and the veterans agent is included in here. Next, you have the library. The library, is a slight increase over FY25, and that's mainly due to the need for an assistant director at the library. That building's open, more than any other services in town, and therefore the need for additional help. But in this line item, you'll see everything rolled up from, wages and salaries to, you know, supplies needed for the library, books, magazines, marketing, and the educational incentive. And then we move on to recreation. Recreation is, just salaries. It's the department head, the assistant, and some longevity. All the other positions are funded, by the programming. The Common Historic Commission, again, it's consistent with last year. Historical preservation, same, consistent for many years, at this point. The non-excluded debt, here we have, has gone down, so, and in FY25 it was $450,000, we're down to $401,000 for FY26. The capital debt here, is slightly increased over last year. So it was 539 last year, we're looking at 573 this year. The excluded debt here, slightly higher, than last year, 198 last year, 209 this year. And then we go into state assessments, which is things like school choice, charter school, mosquito control. The MBTA assessment is included in that line item. The county assessments, is the Norfolk County tax, which is consistent, with last year. The pension, is pretty consistent with last year, has gone up slightly, in FY26. Workers' compensation, has gone up slightly again, in FY26. Unemployment has actually, stayed consistent, over last year and down significantly from 23. And then we have our life insurance number, which is consistent year over year. And we have, let's see, the Medicare tax, once again, consistent year over year. And then we have the risk management, which is includes, you know, the insurance, the surety, police and fire insurance, and self-insurance, and that's year over year pretty consistent. And finally, I believe the interfund transfer is a number of $4.6 million. over last year's transfer of $5.1 million. So that is a brief overview, a quick overview of all the line items. I see Fran's hand up. So-
Yeah, I'm just concerned about the creep in some of these departments now. For instance, the HR is $50,000 more than the town clerk's office. Seems to me that the town clerk has an awful lot to do with two people, and yet their budget is $50,000 less than human resources. And this is a relatively new department, this human resources. So I'm just concerned as where are all of these funds? What are they actually buying us? Are we getting value for the money spent?
So as far as the human resources line item, once again, you do have human resources director. That position was funded in it started in I think 20 maybe 19.
Yeah, just a few years ago.
No, the HR director, so we've had an HR director, it may have rolled up under the town manager line item in the past. And I think now it's just its own category, so I think that's why you're seeing the significant change. Get there. But as far as value, the workforce is becoming challenging. There's a lot to do, there's a lot of hirings. Having the HR department is really just a level of protection for the town to make sure that all rules and regulations are abided by.
Mhm.
So it is important to have.
Yep.
Mrs. Marr has her hand up too, so she may be able to add to that.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. Sorry, Mary, I don't mean to jump over your raised hand. We also share human resource services with schools. We provide support to them as they request. Is that still correct, Michelle?
If they request it, yes.
If they request.
If they request it, we do provide
Yep.
it, yes.
And HR also has been very active in putting, codifying all of the town policies, putting together job classifications and benchmarking all of our positions in town compared to other towns as we try to hire so that, we know if we can be competitive or not. So it's been a very active department on that side.
Okay, that clarifies a little bit. Yep, thank you.
I have to say, I do HR, and the rules and regulations just keep getting more and more challenging every day. People have more issues. The government has been, and the immigration situation right now, that's getting more complicated. I read a newsletter almost every day about changes there. So it's constant maintenance. It just never ends. Mary?
Yeah, just a comment more than a question, but this is great format. Thank you so much for going through that because I know it's thrilling reading for you, Michelle. So
For the
appreciate it.
4,922nd time.
But it is sobering, and we need to take note just the amount of the budget that the healthcare is taking up. And I know that HR and Chris has worked hard to do what we can do to get that number down, but that's that and that pension number are never going to go away, and that just eats up such a sizable part. It's kind of awe-inspiring, actually, not in a good way, but there you have it. So
Do you have an idea how many retirees we have that are collecting pensions? Just a number? I mean, we have to keep adding to the pension fund, obviously.
Right.
I'm
I'm not sure, but that is definitely a number I can get to you and follow up with you tomorrow.
I'm just curious.
I know the increase on health insurance was first forecasted from 9.9 to 19%. So our first draft of the budget, Chris put us right in the middle at 15%. And the final number came in, we are at 9.9. So we are at the lowest amount of increase in the health insurance.
health insurance is crazy, the pricing for towns and businesses. Mark,
Thank you, Michelle. It is helpful seeing it in that format. Would it be, for future presentations of it, would it be possible to have the previous fiscal year compared there with the percentage increase in each department? So it helps us to see, you know, they don't all increase the same percentage every year.
Right.
And when you go through each of the detail in the departments, because the detail has the previous year, so you can do it that way. But you know, again, it's 60 pages here of budget line items. But it would be helpful to see them summarized on a from the previous fiscal year and the percentage increase from the previous fiscal year.
Sure.
And just having gone through it, again, there's very few, maybe 2 or 3 that have gone down from the previous year, and one of those being the RTF. And again, just I know we're all sitting here on the edge of our seats waiting for what the schools is going to say, but you know, again, how does this fit in with the schools is the $1 million or however million dollar question we want to call it. But I think that's really helpful to understand how that's going to fit in.
Sure.
well, I think they're sharpening their pencils as we speak, Mark. At least I hope they got that message. Diane?
Yeah, just to jump on what Mark said, that's why I raised my hand, was to see maybe just for future presentations to see actually the actuals from the previous fiscal years it are more important, I think, than the appropriated amount. Although, you know, it's I can certainly see a spreadsheet that has appropriated actuals, so that we can actually compare sort of where we're at and how these to contain any creep. And then with respect to health insurance, I mean, I don't want to say it is what it is. It's ridiculous, and it's a lot of money. And I know we have, having been on the board of the Maya Healthcare Trust for about 8 years, I can tell you we have the very, very best healthcare program, and people that are kind of stewarding that program really earnestly for the benefit of its members. However, it's definitely something that can explode and really eat up our budget. So it might be worth just something to consider for Ellen and some of us in the future, is to just kind of take a big kind of study approach to where's this going and how's this going to look in 3 to 5 years. You know, if it continues to increase at 10% a year, when, you know, we're stuck with a 2.5% budget. But anyway, good job. Thank you.
Anyone else?
No.
No. Okay. Thank you very much, Michelle, for going through all of that.
Sure.
I know that this was, I don't want to say it was a last minute thing, but Chris thought it might be helpful for us to have it in the second format instead of having to dig through page after page after page. So I think that going forward, we can always enhance this spreadsheet to encompass the items that have been brought up as requests this time. So if no one has any huge concerns other than what we've noted, but we don't have control over, I would entertain a motion to recommend the town budget, the town side of the budget, to town meeting.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we'll do a roll call. Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Fran Collins,
Aye.
Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Mark Maggi,
Mark Maggi, aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Mary McGoldrick, aye.
Meg Wheeler,
Meg Wheeler, aye.
and Gina Stino, aye.
Okay.
Okay. So next is Article 7, supplemental appropriation for fiscal 2025.
Hmm.
See,
So these are the standard well. I don't know how you know.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, okay.
one of the items we've talked about already a couple of times about the access, the cable access and the related cable fund.
Right. But I don't know how you vote this without the schools.
We can't vote it. And we probably, I'm hoping that we can vote it for next week, but their meeting is the same night as ours. So it probably won't happen until on the floor of town meeting. We can approve the transfer funds for the cable related. But why don't we wait until next week and we'll figure that out. If we need to do that and not have the schools included, then we'll just have to do it that way. We don't have a choice without a firm number from the schools. So we're going to hold on that.
Okay.
And then Article 12 is the Recycling Transfer Facility Enterprise Fund, and we do have a presentation here.
You do. I'm going to promote Brian Joyce.
Right.
Do you want me to share the presentation on the screen?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi, Brian. Thanks for joining us again.
No worries. Great party. So I'll run it from here, Michelle. I guess it might be easier to advance.
You sure you don't want me to do it for you?
To be determined. Hold on.
Okay. You just let me know.
So I sent you a
Yep.
request.
Got it. You're all set.
Okay, there we go. So I'm going to cut through a lot of the fluff. There's like 13 or 14 slides here. I mean, you know what the RTF is, and basically what its function is. So we've been, because of budget constraints, we've been asked to obviously look at the RTF, and as a result of the fire, we were looking at it anyway and creating an enterprise fund, which by definition it supports itself with the user and customer fees, similar to the sewer department and the water department. So the RTF budget is over $700,000 annually. The fire again highlighted issues with our layout equipment and accelerating costs. The last time costs were adjusted at the RTF were in 2018. And just as part of the administration, the select board is I guess the de facto commissioners of the RTF for any kind of price increases, changes, things of that nature. So we're creating a structure where the costs are covered by the RTF revenues. We're updating the equipment, improving resident experience. That's the goal, and maintaining. We want to bring back and maintain the community elements, which include the Scout bottle return, the very popular boutique, and the youth sports fundraising, which typically happens on a normal weekend up there. And we're looking to seek out new sources of revenue, which may include customers from other local towns if they wish to buy a sticker. It would be at a higher rate than town resident stickers. Also, we're looking at maybe local trash haulers, if they wish to haul and dispose at our facility on the off days, as we have a 50-ton MSW permit and we only use, basically under 30, we could have them dump if it makes sense for them, not to travel all the way to Braintree or Brockton to dispose of their items, at a lower cost, but a source of revenue for us. The enterprise fund solution, again, we're kind of repeating a lot of things here. It'd be a self-contained operation. So right now, all of the, the cash transactions, the monetary transactions up there, and really for all town-wide, as you know, they go into the general fund, and the general fund is split between the schools and the town. So if you sell a box of bags for $20, 61%, about $12 of that's going to the school, $8 to the town, and really what's coming back into the RTF is probably like $1, right? So, folks think that there's a lot of money coming in there, but it's not coming back directly to this operation, which an enterprise fund will help with that. And we're looking at new sources of revenue. So what are some other communities charging? So now we're getting to the nitty-gritty, the dollars. Hanover has a permit of $345. Plymouth is $190. Situate's at $140. And again, this sticker, if this is created, we would be selling a new sticker. It wouldn't be the all facility sticker. The all facility sticker will remain for beach access and Government Island access and Rocky Beach access and those facilities around town, but the RTF would be a new sticker that would be sold after the creation. So the new fee structure, this is the real nitty gritty. So we're proposing, and we went through several different iterations on how to fund the budget with different sticker prices and different bag prices, and this is kind of where we landed. The annual permit, we're proposing $175 with a reduced rate for a second sticker, same household. Again, we presented this last night at the select board. There's a lot of good feedback, which didn't, we're still looking at, and we haven't changed in these slides, but there was also discussion about maybe a lower rate sticker for seniors and things of that nature. And on the paper throw bags, which are the blue bags, we're proposing a large at $4 and a small at $2. That's an increase from $1 and $2 on those. And we're going to update our bulky waste fees to reflect the actual disposal costs that we take to get rid of it, plus operational costs to handle those goods. So again, really the economics of everybody's house is different, but we try to take a stab at examples of what a household might produce and what it might cost them versus having a private hauler. So with the annual permit, so again, you assumed a family with kids, annual permit's $175. You produce 3 large bags of trash a week at $12. That's an annualized cost of $624. And your recyclables are all free. And again, hopefully, I guess a silver lining on this is hopefully we'll reduce recyclables within the trash just to reduce the MSW going out. So that's estimated total annual RTF cost of $799 for that family versus a private hauler annual average is roughly between $1,000 and $1,200 locally. And again, a smaller household, again, it'd be the same annual permit. If you produce 1 bag a week at $4, that's an annualized cost of $208. Same thing, free recyclables, and an annualized cost for that house of $383 versus the $1,000 if they went private. The other benefit you know, there's pros and cons obviously to each, but private hauler, they come to your house, they take your trash. You're not putting it in your car. But the RTF is available, you know, it's providing 4 days of availability to get rid of your trash, where a private hauler is, you know, within a couple of hours on a certain day of the week. And if you miss that, you're SOL. So this next slide, I'm going to start out this one. The proposed fee is actually, that's mislabeled. It's the market rate. So we are going through these, and there was a lot of discussion last night, rightly so, at the sticker shock of the proposed fee. This is actually a market rate. This is not the proposed fee. So what's going to happen with our bulky goods and these extra rate items is we're going to charge what our disposal costs are plus our operation costs. And it's not just on a lot of these items, we have to, we get charged per pound, or say if it's a light bulb, we get charged per linear foot. So we need to, you know, we're dialing down into what is an average of one of these, you know, weight of these items, and what, you know, our average cost of disposal of these items would be. And it would basically be a pass through to the users of the RTF. And just to put it in perspective, like the refrigerator, again, the market rate of, if you have a private hauler, they charge you $50. Currently, we're charging 10. We're likely going to charge somewhere around $15 to $20 for that. Same with the AC. So anything that has a Freon component to it, that will be have a little extra cost. Whereas microwaves, humidifiers, TVs, or microwaves and humidifiers would probably remain at the $10. The refrigerator and ACs would go up to roughly, you know, $20. TVs, again, those are by weight. Mattresses would likely go from $40 to $45. Again, compare that to a market rate of $100. Or you know, if somebody sneaks one into our C&D, we pay $50 at the C&D receiving facility. Upholstered furniture, this is one that we're kind of looking at on what an average is. Again, we're paying by weight on that, and we're looking at an average piece of furniture, if it's a you know, a sofa or something like that, roughly being about 250 pounds perhaps. And you know, that charge may be somewhere on the order of like $30 as opposed to what you would pay privately at $75. Rugs, right now we're charging $10. We're probably going to go up $20 because you know, unless it's a floor mat, if it's a large rug, we're probably going to pay by the yard or measure it by the yard and have a yardage charge. The next one's yard waste. This is kind of a tricky one. We are paying roughly $8 a cubic yard to get rid of our compost pile. So if you break that down into a, you know, a per bag rate, or a 35-gallon bag rate, plus us having to move the pile and any operational cost, we're probably going to have a yard waste, which is leaves and grass. We may have a charge of anywhere from say $2 to $4 for a large barrel of waste. Again, all of these items are still kind of under analysis and review, and you know, obviously open discussion. I see everybody's hand is up. And the other items, propane tanks, tires, those will be a minor increase. Propane tanks will probably be somewhere around $5, not the $50 that the market rate is. The tires will go from $1 to $5, and tires on the rim, that's a big increase from $4 to $20, because that's what the cost of our disposal is. We're looking at oils, batteries, and bulbs. still, we may not take those. There was the items that fueled the fire when we had it. So we're looking at when we do rehab the facility, get a new garage, what will battery storage look like? What will oil storage look like? There's been a big focus in the industry on lithium battery wasted storage, and it's a complicated storage I guess facility to safely have those so there's no fires. So at any rate, that's a rough overview of our pricing. The facility layout we're looking at. So this is we're going from right to left on this, driving in. Where the structure burned down, we're proposing a 3-bay steel garage to house our loader, our backhoe, and our yard donkey, which moves our trailers, and the heavy haul trailer. So those are the 3 bays that store those. Moving on, where the compactors were for cardboard and plastic, we're proposing to put a new, I'll call it a lean-to structure that would be a canopy where residents would walk on a platform on grade, and they would dispose of the glass on one side and tin on the other side, filling those containers. The cardboard compactor, for those of you who use the facility, have seen that you're loading that yourself. That's a new, I guess, efficiency upgrade where we're not handling that everybody's cardboard and moving it 10 feet to dispose of it. Same with plastic that's adjacent to it. And glass building, when we get the new canopy, will be another compactor, so we can then reseparate, get a better price for our paper and our cardboard. The blue pay-as-you-throw building will remain. We're going to do some modifications and some safety upgrades to the wall and the openings where you can dump your trash in there. The things between the glass building and the large blue canopy building, those are going to move over to where the compost pile is on the far left there. That includes textiles trailer, the e-waste trailer, and the Boy Scout facility. So in that place, we're going to put an office trailer for staff. And in that way, they can look out all of the, I guess, the recyclables and disposal area is right there in that corner of the facility, and staff will be monitoring it right from that area. C&D will remain where it is, and as you move over towards the compost, we're going to take up half of the area where the current compost pile is, grade it, pave it. We'll have to put in some under drains there to make it drain properly, and pave it and put in our Boy Scout facility, the can collections, the boutique, and again, those 2 trailers that were moved from over where the glass facility is for textiles and e-waste. And then there'll probably be a bin block wall separating the compost, which will be on this, the side as you exit the facility going back out towards the street. So that's the general layout. A lot of the commentary last night, the good feedback we got at the select board level revolved around, those containers for kind of the community section, the Boy Scouts and the boutique, not having them as boxy, maybe having openings on the side so that it was easier to peruse or use the facility, and a little more user friendly. Also, we're looking at, there were a lot of questions about, where we dispose of our household trash, having chutes and things of that nature. And let's see, and there was a lot of discussion about the costs because of I mislabeled the previous slide, the costs of the proposed fees, where it was actually a market fee, and you know, obviously there's a lot of sticker shock there. So with that, that's the end of the presentation. I see everyone has their hands up. I don't know. I'll let Jean go through the order.
Okay. My hand has been removed 3 times, so I'm going to go first before they do it again. Just a few simple questions, fairly simple questions. First of all, when would you be looking to implement this? Do you have
July
to finish
1st.
the work at the RTF before it goes into place, or?
So the intent is July 1st to have the budget and the enterprise fund in place.
Okay.
And I mean, I don't know if Michelle has anything more on that, but
Yep.
we're still going to be fixing up the facility between now and then. You know, steel building likely won't be constructed. We're working through those capital upgrades, but you know, due to the budget that you just voted on, that you notice that did not include transfer station, and so we're looking at July 1.
Okay, and then the beach price versus the RTF price. I would guess that the beach price would be low and the RTF price would be higher for the 2 separate stickers. Have you given any thought to what that might look like? I mean, obviously the 175 you've got in place, but if somebody only wanted a beach sticker, how much do you anticipate that will be? Because I think that there are a lot of people who are concerned about that.
So I can take this, Brian. So I believe the beach sticker will stay the same at $75 with the senior citizen discount and the other discounts that are offered. And that'll be strictly just for the beach sticker, and then the $175 will be for the RTF only.
Okay, so there's no change for the beach sticker.
Correct.
All right, and then where does Hull dump? Because we talked about that in a previous meeting about
It's all private hauling.
Okay, all right. So
Part of the additional revenue, we've thought about opening up to residents outside of Cohasset at a higher sticker price, maybe like you know, $300 or $400.
okay, and then I just thought of something else that I didn't write down, and that was not a good thing. Oh, the capacity of our RTF is fairly high versus what we use. Is there a way to lower that, or are we at a minimum?
So our capacity is 50 tons of MSW per week, and we're producing
30?
from 20 to 30. We rarely hit 30. You know, we're generally 20 to 25.
Do you know what the
So,
cost differential is between the 25, just for the midpoint, and 50?
So we pay per ton at CMAS, and we pay for C&D per ton. And what we're trying to do here is to have, whether it's, you know, the extra cost is really the hauling. What we're trying to do with this is have a per unit price where it's down to the ton, regardless of, you know, whether we get 50 tons in 1 week or 30 tons. That it would.
Okay, so some weeks we do hit the max and other weeks we don't, so
We've never hit the max.
okay, so there's no way to reduce that.
To reduce the no, so that's a general small facility permit for.
Okay, all right, that was my main question. Okay, thanks very much. Welcome, Vince. Diane?
Thanks. I just have a couple questions, and I'm gonna log off because I have to be someplace and listen to the answer on my phone as a guest in the audience. Just a couple of things. You know, I think it would be very helpful to, and I mentioned this last week, just to sort of project what the income might be just on the permits alone. You know, if there's 4,800 households, we expect 3,000, you know, minus I don't know what number might possibly get the 175. And how close does that bring us to 700? I recognize the other fees. I think the disposal fees for like mattresses and stuff, I have very little problem with getting those up to what it costs us. But I do worry a little bit about the fact that we've already sold permits or the all facilities sticker for $75, and people are thinking they're buying an all facility sticker, and then we're gonna say, oh yeah, but that's not, you didn't really buy the dump sticker or the RTF sticker. So I just think we need to be very mindful that that's gonna come up. I remember when we were probably in 2018, when we were trying to raise the rates and we did it earlier, there was a lot of pushback about the dump being a service and we don't charge for the library and yet, you know, and I think we just need to be prepared for that. And I think it would be helpful to have a little more fleshed out of a budget in terms of we anticipate we're going to get $500,000 in revenue against $700,000 in costs in the first year or whatever it is to help us make that case. And then the last question I have, and again, and then I'm going to jump off, thank you, is just the upgrades that you just shared. Are those the expenses for that going to get covered within the enterprise fund, or are those capital budget items?
So I'll start, and Michelle can really finish, but half of it is going to be, thanks, Diane. We're still closing up the insurance claim, which includes the loss of the structures up there. And I guess the remainder of it would be capital budget and you know, funds of that nature.
Okay, I do want to add one point that what we do here is we recommend to town meeting or don't recommend to town meeting. And if we vote to recommend this to town meeting, the people in the audience are still the ones that are going to vote on this. So it has to be very well socialized, and all of the points need to be, we really need to clarify the messaging on the costs and the benefits of doing this for the town, which our residents are members of. So again, we're not going to vote to allow this. We're going to vote to allow town meeting to decide this. So that's just a general message to everyone here, and I'm sure they all recognize that. I just needed to say it out loud. So Fran?
Yeah, this may not be of much consequence, but the Scouts don't take any glass deposit bottles, and they haven't now for several years. And I notice an awful lot of returnable bottles are being tossed into the, into the glass mangler up there. I don't know how much money that is, how much money that would come. Is there, I mean, this is a silly thing, but it could be substantial money at a nickel a piece of all these bottles that just get thrown away and broken up.
I can respond to that, Fran. We've done some analysis from a Scout perspective. 80% of the Scout revenue was driven by the cans and plastic bottles, and 20% was driven by the glass. But 80% of the work was associated with sorting the glass. So the recyclers that we, from a Scout perspective, needed to accommodate was sort by some manufacturers, some brewers, color of bottles, and then size of bottles. So we spend 80% of our time sorting glass, which then resulted in 20% of the revenue. So during COVID, the glass recycler that we brought our cans and bottles to was not taking glass. They were only taking aluminum and plastic. So we decided then at that time, and most brewers now produce their product in cans. And most of the bottles are soft drinks and of carbonated nature. So what we're seeing right now that we've reopened is that people are still throwing their aluminum recyclables into the aluminum container, not recycling. So I don't believe there's a lot of glass that we historically have taken that is filling up that container because of the transition from glass to cans. So I'm sure there's still, there can be some revenue generated from the glass, but it's just a diminishing return.
Well, give us an idea how much money was being made on the glass, just round figures.
$200.
$200 a year?
No, $200 per month, I think was on the glass side.
So that's $2,400 a year, so it's not substantial then.
Correct.
Okay, all right, well, just an observation.
And I'll just add, Fran, since we've been looking at safety, obviously with the microscope after the fire, and so we're no longer crushing glass for the risk of shards coming up, and so that's why we're moving to a closed top container that has sliding doors where residents will dispose of the glass directly into that container, and that container is going to reside where the blue compactor building is now.
Yeah, that's always been a concern when I see the guys tossing the bottles with no safety glasses on. That's a huge improvement, what you're talking about. Thank you.
Mark Maggi.
Thanks. I've got a statement and 2 questions. So I've been quiet most of this meeting, so you'll excuse my request for a little bit of time here. I might have missed it. What about leaves, like the brown paper bags we can buy at Aubuchon and Hingham Lumber, and fill up with leaves and throw them in the fall? Is there a limitation on quantity of those or a cost?
So the cost we're looking at is from like $2 to $4 a bag of that.
So on top of buying a pack at the hardware store, you're then paying to throw them away?
Right. We're paying $8 a yard to dispose of that material, and we're moving it with the loader. So we're dialing down to that figure.
Okay. Regarding the hazardous waste, I think, I'm glad that you clarified that column as opposed to proposed, as opposed to market rate. That's one thing where I think it probably makes sense for our town to subsidize the market rate, because otherwise you're giving people a perverse incentive to do something environmentally terrible. Propane tanks aren't large. You can hide them in a regular trash bag. Same with oil, things like that. We need to give people an easy and cheap way to get rid of that really dangerous and harmful stuff. Again, yes, that would mean the town is subsidizing disposal of those things, but for the benefit of our town's environment, we don't want people, finding a dumpster at night and having changed their motor. Probably not a ton of people in this town that change the oil in their car, but pouring it down a storm drain or hiding a propane tank or an old gas can in a blue town bag, because you could very easily do that. If you can charge someone $50 to throw away an old jerry can, they're probably going to hide it in a blue bag and throw it away that way. So that was just a statement. And then Diane sort of touched on this. I think it would be helpful. We need to know how many potential customers we have and what our sort of critical number is for this thing to work. If we have 4,000 households, but you need 7,000 stickers at $1.75, well, it's unrealistic. If you need 2,500, well, maybe. If you only need 1,000, well, we could definitely get there, right? We need to do a little bit of a, if then what type analysis.
Sure. So you know what I'll do? We have a spreadsheet, and I don't think it's ready for prime time here, but we'll share that, and it's got the bag prices and the in-town resident stickers, the out-of-town resident stickers, an assumption of those users. Also an assumption that 20% of the folks that are currently using it will just drop off and not do it, just to have a conservative kind of number on bag sales. So it's really the bag sales and sticker sales that are the main subsidies of the operation. And we're playing with the prices on the spreadsheet and coming to that bottom line target.
Yeah, and if there's additional meetings that I could sit in or be of any help, I don't want to hijack this whole meeting. I'm glad to help. This is something I feel passionate about. I want this to work from an environmental standpoint, from a community standpoint, from a good governance standpoint. I mean, part of the reason I bought myself a pickup truck is so I could take my own garbage to the dumps, including my leaves. There's also a user experience here, right? Sure, I'll pay $2 a bag for my leaves to take them there, but on an October Saturday, I'm going to be really annoyed if it takes me 45 minutes to give you $20 to throw away 10 bags, right? Like that's the type of thing we need to think about here, is that if we're charging people, there is a customer experience element of this as well. That you're gonna charge people more, it really needs to be at least as good as it was, if not better, in terms of customer service. And again, I don't come to this as being critical at all. I want this to work. So I'm just trying to think of every reason why it might not work.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And that's kind of the reason we brought Frank. Frank couldn't make tonight, but Frank Marchione, he's got decades of experience in waste management in the private side, a lot of customer service experience, and he's really training up staff. We've hired a new part-time staff on increasing that customer service experience.
A lot of us are doing yard work well into the afternoon on those fall days. So maybe, regular trash ends at 3:30 on a Saturday in October, but you stay open till 5:30, and those last 2 hours are just brown bags at $2 a pop. And it's a line of SUVs and pickups with their brown bags and nothing else. And you can move those people quickly through. I think sort of government gets a bad rap, right? But government can be nimble, government can work, and we need to show that to people. So we need to be kind of creative in our thinking here and kind of maybe think like a small business, because that's essentially what this is going to be, right? This transfer station is going to be sort of like a small business. We need to think about it that way.
Okay, you good, Mark?
All good, thank you.
Okay, Mary, and then Mark Cameron.
Yeah, first of all, Mark, I hope you run for like public office because I want to vote for you, whatever you do. Just love your presentation. So I had a couple questions, and I'm going to echo a little bit of what Diane said. I think and obviously once you get a little further along, just knowing, pretty closely how many stickers you need to sell, roughly how many bags you need to sell to make this self-sustaining. And I think I was pleased to hear that you're not looking at those extra charge items necessarily to make up the base of your budget, because obviously that's pretty fluid. Is there anything in terms of contractor disposal? How do they work with the town? I'm just curious. So if
we don't have a lot of contractor disposal, but we're talking about contractors that take household trash. They go to Braintree just like we do, and there's a long line to wait on to get through their facility, and so they're tying up driver, a truck, and all that.
Okay.
So we're talking about maybe to fill up the gap between our 30 tons and our 50-ton permit offering on Mondays and Tuesdays when we're closed, if those are the days that they can do it, to dump their loads at ours at a cost that we'll get that pass-through cost, even if we lose some of those customers to private haulers, just as another revenue source. And then we could, it doesn't really add a lot to us. We're paying for the hauling of the trailers anyway. We'd have more runs, but it would be subsidized.
Okay, that's great. That's a great idea. And again, a little bit of concern about the all facility stickers that have already been sold and how that's going to be messaged. I think obviously one of the best places to socialize all of this is going to be at the dump, but it's going to need to start to happen, I think, pretty quickly, at least by the middle of April, if not the beginning of April. So people have a pretty solid idea that, what you're looking is to be self-sustaining, not add, a perceived other tax on the townspeople. So, but I really appreciate everything you've done, and the presentation was great. So thank you.
Sure. Thanks.
Mark Cameron.
And not to beat these fees down, but again, it's the perception of you go to Hingham Lumber to get rid of a propane tank, they charge $10. You go to there's no tire store around here that would charge you $50 to get rid of the tires. So finding ways that if the cost to get rid of those is it truly exists. I mean, we all know that those costs exist, but getting them down to a more marketable, reasonable rate. Maybe it's finding other vendors that can take these at those reasonable rates versus going in with the general debris. And again, I'm not sure how they're processed. There's tire recyclers and getting engaged with those vendors to make sure that we're getting the lowest cost, and we're passing that lowest cost through, and working that angle as well. On the yard waste, you mentioned the $8 a yard to move that. Is there any thought or appetite to potentially offer that material to commercial vendors where the commercial vendors could come in on those off days where the transfer station is not open, and that material could be loaded free of charge for them by our loading machines in there. I mean, because I mean, I'm at times I would say, yeah, it's great, I could use some of that material, but going there, getting, shoveling it myself, one bucket at a time, is pretty exhausting. So trying to find other ways that may not cost us a ton of money to get rid of that material, but also not put safety and risks out there that we don't need. Obviously, people aren't going to be able to load their own material with the town's machines. So just thinking of ways to be able to, outside the box thinking to get rid of that material.
Yeah.
And then was there any analysis done on the town side to say, what if we just the RTF was for minimal use and we went to town-wide curbside pickup with a one contracted hauler? So a lot of towns do that. I mean, they're not performing the service themselves, but I joke here, I'm on this little lane here with 7 houses and I see 2 different haulers coming down here for 2 different people. And there's only 2 people on the road that actually have it. But it's 2 different trucks on 2 different days. And was there any analysis that the whole town has one hauler?
No, we didn't really deep dive on that. We discussed it and felt that that operation would be a lot more complicated and a lot more costly than our current operation, where folks are sorting it and bringing it to us, and we're basically hauling out sorted material.
I mean, I think it would be worthwhile to have that information as we message these costs, as these costs are all coming at people. If there was, a similar cost to have it, and it was, going to the RTF, you're comparing the cost of going to the RTF is being compared to an individual household getting their own hauler. But what if it was on a town-wide scale? I think is a worthy exercise to help demonstrate the numbers. And then on the stickers, so I did listen to last night's select board meeting, but I thought, correct me if I'm wrong, the all facility stickers are going to function as the town and beach sticker for the whole next year. That's correct. It is there.
Yes.
There isn't going to
Yeah.
be a dump sticker as of June 1, right?
No, that we'd be selling if this goes through, we'd be selling a new sticker on or around June 1.
It'll be a supplement to what you've already purchased for the all facility sticker.
Yeah, I mean that seems like a very slippery slope because people are being forced to, basically buy their stickers in March here. The current stickers will be up, and now it's sort of going to feel like a little bit of a gotcha moment because after everyone had to buy their stickers, there is going to be, we're going to say, hey, you bought, for instance, I bought 3 stickers and now I'm going to be told that none of them work for the dump. And if I had known that, I probably would have positioned myself a little bit differently. I think is that I think it would be a very dangerous slope. And then, looking at the budget, it's the RTF, it's still carrying a $200,000 budget. And I think Chris has mentioned that in the past. That's just for this first year to help it get off the ground, get going. But there's still $545,000 that came out of the town budget from the RTF that's going somewhere else in the town budget. I presume this year it's probably going to schools. And getting a sense that if we're going to be paying more for the waste removal process, we're still going to be paying $75 for our all facility stickers that aren't really all facilities anymore. It seems like a lot of minor, a lot of nickel and diming costs, because I would think at this point, if we're paying for an RTF sticker, that the town sticker to go to the beach, Government Island, that would be either free or very cheap. It just seems like a very nickel and dime situation. I mean, it's, you know, I joke, why don't we put a toll booth on Jerusalem Road? I mean, it's getting to that point where you're gonna pay for everything you want to do. And I think that there will be some pushback on that.
Yeah, those are all fair comments. I mean, we thought about the same thing. I think just the timing of the, I guess, the budget constraints and the genesis of this is.
And again, just, I mean, also to then further have the buildings and the resources that are needed at the RTF to happen being capital budget requests further exacerbate that situation, because now it's, you know, we're paying capital budget is funding a metal building up there instead of Chromebooks at the high school or a new parking lot or something else that's important, something at the library. You know, it's just if it's going to be an enterprise fund, it should be truly an enterprise fund, and it should be self-sufficient and consider not tapping on capital budget. And I get that it's hard to start, but it should be treated that way.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of the replacement of like the garage building, we had a 1-bay garage where we're proposing a 3-bay garage because that's what our operation requires now. But so a lot of that hopefully is covered under the insurance claim. And there's funding but we're looking at that finite pot of money and thinking about where should we first allocate it. The garage is great for the equipment, but we really need to continue to operate. So we need compactors. We need safety upgrades for the railing. You know, there's a lot of pressure to get these facilities open for the scouts and the boutique. They're not revenue generating, but they're very, you know, a big part of the community. So we're still going through that. Just going back on you had a compost. So we are looking at additional ways. We probably had about 4 different compost type, you know, operators like Black Earth. The current place we haul to is called AgriSource. You know, none of them would take it for free. There was a cost for each of them. We're looking at also, we've got a question into DEP, can we spread it on our landfill? You know, just a thin layer over a large area, kind of get rid of the pile. So we're looking at options like that to, you know, to reduce what we need to
How
haul.
about like private landscaping companies? Would anybody that has like a dump truck or something where we could, you know, just, hey, you want it, you could bring your truck, your dump truck and load it. We'll load it for you, so you don't have to bring your equipment here.
Yeah, that option is open now, so we just don't have a lot of takers. But yeah, maybe better advertising.
Okay.
Okay, Vince,
Yeah, I just had a real quick question. So Brian, were the cameras ever in service to monitor the dump stickers and license plates prior to the fire? I was told that they were initiated. So is there any history of, you know, who came and went, or was that never turned on?
No, they're still working out the bugs from the reader versus the town clerk's list for license plates.
Okay.
And I was actually just looking at it 2 days ago with IT, and the reader, it has issues where it sometimes it reads like the wheel wells of you know, the writing on the sides of tires and things like that. So we're working through those bugs.
Okay, all right. I was just curious if there was any history that you could pull of the people that use the dump versus those that just only used it for the beach. So, you know, I was told a year ago that was turned on. So thank you for that.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you just our rough assumptions, and Michelle, you can correct me. We have about 6,000 sticker sales. We're looking at maybe 2,000 users, a third of the town using the facility. And I think we were estimating maybe 200 to 250 out of towners at a higher sticker price. So that's kind of the basis. And then on the bag sales, it came down to a quantity of what you can fit in a bag and what we've been generating. We have a list of how many bags have been sold in a year, and we know how much you can fit in a bag roughly weight. So that's kind of how we're dialing down on those user numbers.
Is that tied into the bags sold at the RTF dump itself, or including, Stop and Shop and Shaw's?
Yeah, so the company we contract with to produce the bags sells to all those facilities, and we get a report on all the sales and the bags that are sold.
Okay, all right. And then on a separate side, on the excavation or excavator usage, I'm dealing with this right now at the Barnes Field. Some excavators won't take wet soil. Are there issues with the soil coming from the RTF, whether it's contaminated with mustard, garlic mustard, or things of that nature? Are there issues on that side?
Are you talking about the compost pile?
Correct.
Yeah, so compost is it's an art and a science from what I've learned. Previously, in the past year and a half, we've been doing it correctly, but obviously the fire and trying to truncate it now. In the past, this compost wasn't turned correctly, and a lot of the seeds remained, including whatever you threw in there, which was mustard seed and other weeds. So they would propagate if it wasn't baked, so to speak, properly. Right now, we have a good finished compost, but that hasn't been the case historically.
Okay, all right. So there's no issue with selling that compost externally if we went that direction from a commercial standpoint?
Currently, the quality, we've had a few vendors come in and look at it, and they're not offering us even to take it at cost, or at, they're looking for a fee to get rid of it.
Okay, all right.
Mrs. Marr, and then Mark Maggi again.
Hi, I just wanted to clarify on the budget. So the total general fund budget request for FY26 excluding schools is 36.3 million against last year's budget of 35.4 million. It's a 2.7% increase. So if the enterprise fund were not to happen, we would have to find savings somewhere else in the budget. And the big driver in the budget this year, as we talked about earlier, is health insurance, which is up over 600,000. So the total dollar increase FY25 to 26 is about 956,000, and 600,000 of that is from health insurance. So we haven't made any accommodations at this point for the schools, the school budget, because they're still working on it. Does that make any sense to anybody?
It does, thank you.
Okay.
Mark Maggi.
Thanks. I worry this idea isn't ready for prime time and town meeting is too close. And I worry that a bad rollout is going to doom it to failure forever. And I'm wondering if there's a way we can punt on this. How can we buy ourselves some time to talk about this in 6 months or 12 months? Not for lack of effort, not for lack of thought. I just think this needs to be socialized at soccer and baseball fields. This needs flyers at the transfer station. This needs more. I know you guys are working hard and you're trying to get this thing ready. I'm not saying this to be critical. I just don't think it's there. And if it goes poorly the first time, I think it's going to have a stink on it forever. No pun intended, given that it's a transfer station. I'm wondering how we buy ourselves more time with this idea to give it a better chance of success.
So the only way to buy time would be to build it back into the budget, which would be maybe we'd cut some services and offer less time at the RTF, or we'd have to cut other town services. I think as everyone stated, that the big budget number that is really concerning to everyone is health insurance. I think Ellen indicated was about a $500,000 increase. It's actually more. And without this enterprise fund in place, I think we're gonna have to cut some services somewhere else to accommodate it in the short term.
Yeah, I just think I don't, I support this. I would stand up and argue for it. I don't think this has a chance at town meeting. And I don't say that to be critical or, a wet blanket. There's just too many unknowns, and it's a lot of extra costs with way too many unknowns. I mean, we've tried 4 times to resolve the town hall situation, and there was a lot more clarity around that situation. So that's just where I'm at. I say that coming from a position of someone that wants this to succeed, and I see very little chance of it happening in a month or two's time.
Thanks, Mark. Meg, and then Mark.
I think Mark may have actually been before me.
That's okay. You go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to second what the other Mark said. I also support this in theory. If I'm understanding correctly that, and I was a little confused, but I think I caught this, that the permits we're buying now will not allow us to get into the dump after June. Is that, I'm understanding that correctly?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure, because one thing I heard sounded contrary, but if that's the case, then I think this absolutely fails at town meeting, because I think I'm gonna be the one saying, what the hell, pardon my language, because I think we're marketing them right now as all facilities stickers. Like I am really concerned about that aspect of it. If there was a way to push that piece of it and say, if you buy, if your sticker is bought before June, you have until next March, for the full benefits, and then it's going to be the 175. Fine. I think it's a lot easier to push this through, but I worry. I share Mark's concern that this is a big change and kind of feels like a gotcha, and there's not a lot of time to socialize this and get people on board. And I agree that if it fails at this town meeting, I think it, much like town hall, it's going to be really hard to resurrect.
Okay, I think we're gonna wrap it up. Mark Cameron and then Vince, and then we won't have any more conversation on this. We've been on it for a long time. I think we've all voiced our opinions and asked our questions, and I think most of us feel the same. So I think the town needs the opportunity to vote on it, but I don't think that this is the timing because of the socialization part. I mean, they're already talking about this on Facebook. They have been for weeks before we even really knew about it. It's amazing how things start here. Mark.
Again, just to second Mark and Meg here, it's just not enough time here to digest all this. It's going to be very much feel like a gotcha moment, and I do want this to succeed because I do think it is worthy of being an enterprise fund. It should be self-supporting. It shouldn't be subsidized by the town budget. It should cover its costs. And I think right now it's too premature without having the clarity on what's happening with the schools and the overall budget. I mean, just the fact that we're trying to vote on the budget as an overall and we don't have the answer to the biggest piece of the pie. And then feeling like we're going to have our guns to our head here to make a recommendation and an approval, and then have this as a monumental change to the way we operate here in Cohasset, and have a monetary impact. I mean, that's what has killed town hall in the past years, is the monetary impact on the households here. And I just, without every question being fully vetted and every T and I being dotted and crossed, I just don't think this is going to pass, and personally, I can't support it myself at this time until there's that kind of clarity. Thanks, Gene.
Okay,
Yeah, I took my hand down just to say that, yeah, I'm following along with Mark, Megan, and Mark, and the fact that, timing is the issue here. People, I was at the rec fair this past weekend, and so many people are coming in to buy their RTF or all-purpose stickers, and I think they're just worried that things will change, like the sports fees at school, and other fees changing. People want to buy now and thinking that they're going to lock in, and if they change in 2 months, that's going to it's going to pull the rug out from underneath them. And I think there's going to be a lot of upheaval and not
And
not happy people.
And keeping the beach fee the same as the all facilities current price, I think that that's going to be very
Yeah.
controversial.
Yeah.
Yeah, where's that money going to? I mean, it's, in theory, in the past, it's going to operate the dump.
Exactly. Well,
So
it's an offset. Yes,
may
Michelle.
may I just say something? So yes, in theory, that money goes to operate the dump, but I think everyone needs to realize that our budget is split between the schools. So any revenue coming into the general fund is split with the schools. So it may look like the all facilities sticker, we're getting revenues of say $500,000, but we're not getting that $500,000 to operate the dump, because 61% of that $500,000 is going towards the schools.
Right.
So that's our financial policy. That's just how it works. So when we see these numbers going into the general fund, I think everyone just needs to understand that they're always split between town side and school side.
Right. Mary?
Yes, and I know you wanted to cut commentary, but Brian, if there's any way to think about perhaps going ahead and raising the bag fees at this juncture and not dealing with the sticker price. And if there's a way to take that 200 that's already allocated in the budget for the RTF, raise the bag fees, see what you can get there. Maybe increase some of your disposal fees, but I do think, there's no reason to belabor the point. I concur with everybody who has spoken in the last 10 minutes here about that, but maybe there's a compromise along the way that you can use to get yourself halfway there and then tackle this next year.
Sorry, one last comment. Is there any way to socialize what the distribution of the dump fee or all-purpose fee goes to? Michelle, you just mentioned 60% goes to school.
Yeah, so based on our financial policy, 61% of the general revenue is split between it goes to the school side, 39% is the town side. So anytime we have a general fund revenue, it's based on our financial policy, that's how it's split. That's why we're thinking an enterprise fund, so it'll be self-sustaining, so any money coming in goes strictly to that facility.
So it no longer go to the school.
Correct.
I mean, I think that's a big part of the socialization of where the funds are going. So that needs to be transparent.
Okay, I think we're going to wrap this discussion up.
Very well, thank you all, and all valid points. I appreciate them, and I share a lot of them. This came down really fast, and we're trying to make it work out. So we'll be talking soon.
Thanks for your work. You're doing a really hard job.
Thank you, Brian. It's a lot.
Brian,
So appreciate it.
I think that Mary's suggestion to increase the bag fees might take a little bit off. I mean, obviously, if the schools are getting some of it, then it's not going to be a big boost, but that, and then maybe some kind of a dog and pony show at town meeting for what's coming down the pike. And if you start having the conversation now, it's not going to be a surprise when it actually happens. I think this time around, it would be a real surprise and people would get really upset. And I think that everybody's point about it becoming a non-starter going forward, we don't want that. We want it to be successful. We want it to happen the way it needs to happen. So just my 2 cents at the end. But thank you very much.
Great.
Thanks for
Thank
hanging
you.
in. Okay, Article 15, Community Preservation Committee.
So this article on the source of funds here, as we discussed earlier, the town hall renovation, CPC voted $1.5 million for that. Friends of Holly Hill Farm, for the conservation restriction, they voted up to $1 million for that. And that's pending an appraisal of that land. They voted $5,000 for the library collection, the preservation project. And the Housing Authority roof, a roof replacement there at $275,963. And then they approved Sandy Beach Association storm fencing at $20,500. That fencing's deteriorating, and they're looking to get that done as soon as possible.
Okay, so are we looking for a recommendation on the items that have been approved already?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess we should take them. Does anybody object to taking them as a group?
Well,
Or,
I'm gonna have to abstain from the town hall, so
Okay.
it's up to you how you want to do that. If you want me
okay,
to,
then we'll do them separately.
okay, sorry.
I think we can, Michelle, I think we can vote on the town hall one, right? I mean,
I
again,
think you
it's,
can vote on the town hall.
Yeah,
Okay.
I need to abstain because I'm on the board of the Hall and Highland,
okay,
so that's I'm not going to vote on that one.
okay, yeah, I guess your position in the,
My-
in the equation here is different than mine.
Correct. I'm
Not
not
view, but
I'm not abstaining because I was on the working group. I'm abstaining
Gotcha.
because I'm on the board of the nonprofit.
I just wanted to not step in anything myself, that's all.
Okay, all right, so, do we recommend, do I have a motion to recommend the historic preservation undesignated town hall renovation for $1,500,000?
So moved.
Second,
Here,
Fran's got it.
and Fran. Okay, roll call, please. Meg Wheeler.
I'm abstaining.
Yeah, okay, but you have, okay, so you're not in favor, in other words.
She's one abstention. She's
No,
one
I'm
abstention.
abstaining.
Right,
So I'm not voting no, I'm abstaining.
okay. So we need to be clear on the notes for that.
Yep, I've got it.
Sorry, Fran Collins,
I,
Mary,
Aye.
Mark Coleman,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Vince Thornton,
Vince Thornton, aye.
and Mark Maggi,
Mark Maggi, aye.
and Gina Stino, aye.
Good.
Okay, so the next item on the list is open space and recreation undesignated. Do Friends of Holly Hill Farm and conservation restriction in the amount of $1 million. Do I have a motion? I feel like an auctioneer. Do I have a motion
So
to
moved,
recommend that? Who
so
said?
moved.
Second,
Mark Cameron,
And do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call. Meg Wheeler,
Meg Wheeler, aye.
Fran Collins.
I,
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Vince Thornton,
Vince Thornton, aye.
Mark Maggi,
Mark Maggi, aye.
and Gina Stino, aye. And wait a minute, Meg. Abstained.
I think Meg is, that was,
She abstained. I just
Fire.
made, no, I just made a
Right.
note to myself. She
sorry.
abstained on that first one.
she abstained from the first one, right?
Correct.
Just in case there are any questions.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes our
Sorry.
note taker calls me and says, did you get that second person?
Yes, I abstained on the first one. I voted yes on the second one.
Yes.
Yeah, all right. Sorry.
So historic preservation, Paul Pratt Memorial Library Historical Collection Preservation Project in the amount of $5,000. Do I have a motion to recommend to town meeting?
Motion,
Second.
So that was Vince
Yeah.
and Mary?
Correct.
Okay. Meg Wheeler,
So I'm going to be the problem child again. I also have to abstain from this one because I sit on the Friends of the Quasit Library Board.
okay. Abstain. Fran Collins,
Aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, I.
Vince Thornton,
Vince Thornton, aye.
Mark Maggi,
Mark Maggi, aye.
and Gina Stino, aye. Next is the Affordable Housing Undesignated for the Cohasset Housing Authority roof replacement project in the amount of $275,963. Do I have a motion to recommend to town meeting?
So move.
Do I have a
Second,
second? Who seconded? Sorry.
Mark Cameron.
Thank you. Roll call. Are you going to abstain again? Meg, you're laughing.
No, I'm laughing because you don't get a prize for seconding. You guys know that, right?
Try to move it along here.
Okay, there you go.
Well, I can
2
vote on
hours
this
in.
one. Although I keep getting thrown off because you don't normally call on me first. So
I know. I usually do it in alphabetical order, but not everybody's here, so I'm just doing it by the people.
I love it. As a Wheeler, I'm normally last. So this is great.
know.
Meg Wheeler, aye.
Frank Collins,
Aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Mark Maggi.
Mark Maggi, aye.
I threw him off too. Mark Cameron
Mark Cameron, I.
and Vince Thornton
Vince Thornton, aye.
and Gina Stino, aye. Thank you. And then Open Space and Recreation, Sandy Beach Association storm fencing in the amount of $20,500. Do I have a motion to recommend to town meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so I have two people who moved it and one person who seconded.
This is a goal.
So who made the motion?
Mark Maggi.
Okay.
I don't need credit. Someone else can have it if they want it.
Okay, and that was Vince who seconded?
Yes.
Okay. All right, roll call, please. Meg Wheeler,
Meg Wheeler, aye.
Fran Collins,
Aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, I.
Vince Thornton,
Vince Thornton, aye.
and Mark Maggi.
Mark Maggi,
I didn't hear what you said, Mark.
aye.
Thank you. And Gina Stino, aye. Okay, so that one is done.
And then the final one, I think, is Article 19, the citizens petition.
Yes. And I think that was Chris thinking that that may not go forward?
Oh, I think it's gonna go forward.
Okay, we must have been talking about something else.
Maybe not, but I haven't heard that it wasn't gonna go forward.
Okay, well, you do your thing here and then we'll do what we do.
Okay, so this is to expand the sewer district on Lambert's Lane. Currently there is one plot of land that does have it is in the sewer district. The same owner owns two other pieces of land. He's looking to combine all pieces of land. Therefore, he wants them all to be acknowledged to be in the sewer district. However, that's not how it works, and he has to go before the sewer commission. He just had a hearing, has to go before the sewer commission to expand the district to allow his other parcels to be included.
Okay. So what are we thinking here?
I can tell you that the sewer commission did not vote on this. They did not take a vote.
And I'm thinking that we're probably not ready to vote on this either. I mean, I was thinking that from the beginning. Maybe that's my confusion with my conversation. So I think we will take a pass on this for tonight, if everybody's okay with that. I would be interested in learning more about the whys and whens of the sewer commission and just get a little bit more information on it. Do you have questions, Vince?
Yeah, Lambert's Lane, is that the same road for the golf course? Is that
Yes.
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 down to the end there? Okay,
Yep.
all right, that's all. Just wanted the geographic reference. Thanks.
All right.
Okay. And Mark Cameron?
I guess two very basic questions. If they were to do this, would the citizens petitioner come in front of us to present their case to us? Or no, I'm not likely.
Not likely, no.
Okay. And then if obviously there's a cost to do this, would that cost be solely on that landowner and not on the town?
Yep, the cost would be solely on the landowner, but what this does do is opens up 2 buildable lots that have been unbuildable for many years.
Which is probably why he presented this.
Correct.
Thanks.
And this is not associated with the Aquarian, the old Aquarian.
No, nope. So the challenge with this lot is it's not in the Cohasset Sewer District, other than that one parcel. However, the Hingham Sewer runs right by it, so the homeowner originally thought that he could just connect into Hingham because it
Right.
runs right by the house. However, that's just not how it works. So unfortunately, this is the position.
All right.
So I think our work
And
is
no
done
vote.
for this evening. Yeah, there's no vote on this.
Okay.
I don't have any topics not reasonably anticipated, except we do have a new meeting posted for April 9th, and I will be out of town, so we will not be holding that meeting. Unless somebody really wants to do it instead, Mary.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm gonna be available then either, so
No, and I know you're not available next week,
I am
so
not.
I'm thinking that next week will kind of be a barn burner again, as tonight is, because we need to vote on a lot of things. So let me just see. April 9th, we will not be meeting. If we have to meet, the next one would be the 16th. And that's not school vacation week, right?
No,
It is
Okay.
not, I'd be unavailable. We're leaving for a trip that evening. but-
As most people would be, we don't usually have meetings during school vacation weeks because it just doesn't work out. So I'm hopeful that we don't have to do that. I am also hopeful that the schools will come forward with a reasonable plan for reductions. Otherwise, we are going to have to just discuss it on town meeting floor. We did the same thing last year. It's not a good look. So hopefully they'll come around before next week with some actual good figures for us.
So,
And
Jean, I'm sorry, did you say that they were meeting the 2nd as well?
yes,
So we're both meeting on the 2nd, right?
yes.
Would it make sense to maybe hold a joint meeting in the beginning so you can hear the budget, the way
That
it's
would be
presented?
lovely, but I don't know if they'll go for it. And I'm not sure, is that a
Only because the
regular
warrant
meeting?
closes on the 8th, and if we were really trying to get this in the warrant, not that I want to rush everyone here, but
No, I get it, but, oh gosh.
Jean, they used.
But I get this.
Is that
So-
just the public meeting on the budget, Mary? Do you know?
I think, my impression was that this just was a regular meeting.
Yeah, I thought so too.
As I understand, as I was communicating with Craig, some of the issues, there's chickens and eggs here, and so they're looking at fee increases, and trying to determine those before they kind of do their red line, kind of budget cut items. So, and my impression was that was not going to be finalized until that April 2nd meeting date. Now, they do sometimes meet before last year at least, or the year prior, they were starting earlier, at least at 6. So I can look up and see when they start, because it is possible. I mean, the thing is they're gonna have a long meeting and then to roll in
They
to
don't
talk
like
to
to,
us.
they,
It's just,
they
that's
don't like
just,
to do that,
well,
so.
it's hard. It's just
It
hard.
is hard.
So,
So we just got the again, I assume I got this because we've got kids in the school system, but we got an email saying there's a special meeting for fee discussions on Monday, 3/31.
Okay. So I'm guessing what they're looking for is public input before they make their decisions, which is the appropriate.
Okay, so that would be the public input, and then their meetings on the 2nd. But even if we don't, so if we don't meet with them on the 2nd, if we do our own thing on the 2nd, we would then hear from them on a later date. We're not meeting on the 9th.
Right.
Would it then be like the 16th that we would hear from them? We can still do our deliberation meet. We'll have missed the deadline to get our recommendation in the warrant,
All right, right.
but at least we go to town meeting, which is a couple of weeks later, and it's not like we're discussing this on town meeting floor for the first time. We're
Right.
going into town meeting with our recommendation. We know what it's going to be.
Right,
It just won't be printed in the warrant.
Correct.
right. Town meeting is the 12th of May.
Yeah.
Okay, any more comments?
Nope.
Then would someone like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Mark Maggi,
Second,
who was that?
Mark Cameron.
Mark and Mark.
The mark-to-mark connection.
Okay, all right. Roll call, please. Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Fran Collins,
Aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Meg Wheeler,
Meg Wheeler, aye.
Vince Thornton,
Vince Thornton, aye.
and Mark Maggi,
Mark Maggi, aye.
and Gina Stino, aye. Thanks, folks. Sorry it's so late,
Thank you.
and we adjourned at 9:20.
All right,
Thank
good night,
you.
everybody.
Good night,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Talk to you soon.
Next week.